Hey, Allison Verhalen here with AV Writing Services, and today I am talking about LinkedIn articles. So we get this sometimes when people hear that we offer blogging services. They talk about their LinkedIn articles as if they're the same thing, and they're not quite the same thing. So we're going to break it down for you in this post. We're going to talk about the differences between LinkedIn articles and blog posts. There are pros and cons to each. Full disclosure, we are fans of blog posts. We're going to get into the reasons why, but it could make sense for your business to invest time and effort and resources into creating LinkedIn articles depending on your business. So we're going to start with the pros of LinkedIn articles. So on the one hand, it's very easy to use. If you're not very tech savvy and the idea of starting and maintaining your own website is kind of overwhelming and you don't know how WordPress works, it can be very confusing for some users. So if that overwhelms you, LinkedIn is much easier to use. It's right at the top when you sign into LinkedIn. At the very top of your feed, it will invite you to create a post or write an article, and you can just start writing. It looks a lot like Medium. It's very user-friendly. So that's one benefit. Another benefit is easy analytics. When you have that pro account and you write articles and put them out on LinkedIn, LinkedIn provides analytics for you. They're very easy to use. If you're kind of overwhelmed by Google Analytics, which provides a ton of data and is super useful, but if data analytics isn't really your thing and you don't want to go through pages and pages of Google Analytics data because that puts you to sleep, LinkedIn makes it very short and sweet for you. It just gives you the highlights that you need to know of how many people found your article, who engaged with it, how many people engaged with it, all that good stuff. Super easy to use. Another pro to LinkedIn is that it's great for online visibility on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's algorithm likes it when people create content on LinkedIn. So they do help promote the profiles of authors of LinkedIn articles. So if you create a LinkedIn article, not only will that help improve the visibility of your article, but it could actually help improve the visibility of your profile overall. So if you're in the B2B space and you know that most of your customers are hanging out on LinkedIn, it could make sense for you to create LinkedIn articles and to devote the time and effort there. And another benefit of LinkedIn articles is that in addition to showing up on LinkedIn, you could potentially also show up on Google because Google loves LinkedIn. There's a ton of content on LinkedIn. Google knows the site. It's a well-established site. There's a ton of people creating content, engaging with content, interacting with each other on that site. Google loves that. So if you create something on LinkedIn, there's a potential, I'm not making any promises, but there is a potential that that content could also show up in searches in Google, assuming you're following all the other SEO rules of having high quality content that answers people's questions, that fills a gap in the content that already exists online. If you write a LinkedIn article about something where there's already a ton of content out there on that topic, you're still not going to rank in Google. And you might not rank in LinkedIn because it's possible there's a ton of content on LinkedIn about that topic already. So again, you still have to consider your topic, your audience. What do you really want to focus on? So those are the pros. Those are good reasons why you should consider LinkedIn articles. The cons of LinkedIn articles, for us, it really centers around the fact that LinkedIn is in control. You put it out on LinkedIn, you publish it on LinkedIn, LinkedIn owns that content. And that means LinkedIn can do whatever it wants with it. If LinkedIn decides that it's valuable and they want to promote your article, then they'll promote your article, and that can be great. But on the flip side, LinkedIn might decide, this doesn't align with our policies and procedures, we're going to nix it. And they don't have to give you a reason. They don't even have to give you warning that they're going to do that. Your article could just disappear for no reason whatsoever. And that sucks that you put all that time and effort into creating that content and then it just disappears. Or it's there, but it doesn't really get promoted, and so no one really sees it. So, we love LinkedIn, and it's great for B2B businesses. We are in the B2B space. We are on LinkedIn a lot, but I'm not sure that it's really effective to create all that content and put all the time and effort into creating content that might not go anywhere. So that's our biggest con. The second reason not to use LinkedIn articles ties into that first reason of LinkedIn is in control, is that LinkedIn controls the look and feel of your article. Everything from the formatting to the font is determined by LinkedIn. And it might not align with your brand. If you don't really care about the look and feel of the article, the formatting, the font, if you're fine with LinkedIn's look and feel, then that's great. But keep in mind that LinkedIn's goal is to promote LinkedIn. They're not really interested in your brand, they're interested in LinkedIn's brand. So that's what they're going to try to promote. So they make sure that all their content looks the same, has that same look and feel to it to promote LinkedIn's brand. And finally, another huge reason not to use LinkedIn articles is that it's really hard to convert leads into customers. When people finish reading your article, LinkedIn is going to direct them back to other content on LinkedIn because it's in their best interests to have users stay on LinkedIn and use more content and engage with content on LinkedIn. They don't really want to send people to your website. They want to keep people on LinkedIn. So you could increase your visibility and get your brand in front of more people, and that's great. But if you can't convert those leads into customers, it really defeats the purpose of creating that content in the first place. So it's just something to consider. Now on to your blog. So blogging pros, obviously the biggest reason to have your own blog is that you own the content. It's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. LinkedIn, again, with LinkedIn being in control and building that business and relying really heavily on LinkedIn, we saw this a few years ago with Facebook, where people had built their businesses by engaging with people on Facebook, and then Facebook changed their algorithm and made it much harder for business owners to get in front of their audience. Businesses were literally destroyed overnight because they relied on Facebook to communicate with their audience, and all of a sudden they couldn't do that because Facebook changed their algorithm. So, I mean, LinkedIn hasn't done anything like that yet, but again, there's a potential for that. So when you own the content and you're in control of everything that happens on your website, you control that line of communication between you and your audience. So always maintain control, and then you can do whatever you want with your content. So that's the big reason that we recommend your blog, maintaining your own blog over LinkedIn articles. Another reason is that it's better for B2C businesses. If you're in the B2B industry, it makes sense to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and build your brand there. But if your business is more customer facing, you're not really going to interact with the people that you need to target on LinkedIn. So you're better off creating your own website, your own blog, and then sharing it on social media channels where they are hanging out, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or wherever it is that you know your ideal target audience is spending time. Another reason to use your own blog is that it's easier to convert leads into customers because, like I said, with LinkedIn is going to drive customers back to LinkedIn. But when they're on your website, you can direct them to similar blog posts that you've written. You can direct them to your sales pages. You can ask them to sign up for your newsletter or to follow you on social media, which could include LinkedIn. You can do all the things that you need to do to lead them down the buyer journey, all the way to clicking that buy button or reaching out to you or whatever it is you want them to do, where they finally become a customer and give you their money. It's much easier to do on your own website where you own the content, you own the domain, you own the whole transaction. Another reason to blog is that there's no word limit. LinkedIn technically does not have a word limit for their articles, but people have noticed that after a certain amount, after a certain length, their LinkedIn articles tend to get cut off, which again, that goes back to the fact that LinkedIn owns the content and they can do whatever they want with it. And if they don't want a super long article, they don't have to publish the whole thing. You can invest all the time and effort required to create this super data-rich article that's thousands of words long, and then most of your article doesn't even show up on LinkedIn because LinkedIn doesn't want to promote all of that content. And that sucks. On your own blog, it can be as long as you want. It's not going to get cut off. And especially if you're in the B2B space, Google studies have shown that the content that performs the best, that gets the most engagement and the most shares, tends to be at least 1,500 words long, if not longer. So the longer your content is, the better off it's going to be. And you can really only do that for sure on your own website. And finally, the last reason that you should absolutely be blogging for your business is, I was just at the tip of my tongue and it went out my head in just that second. It was repurposing. There we go. Repurposing your content. Because you own the content, you can do whatever you want with it. When LinkedIn owns the content, they might not be as happy about you repurposing the content. And repurposing content is key because right now, the world, the internet in particular, requires us to produce an insane amount of content. You have to be on your blog and on your website and on whatever social media channels work for you, whether that's LinkedIn or another social media channel or a combination thereof, whether it's videos like we're making here in addition to our blog posts. There's so much content that we need to produce in order to remain relevant online. And the best way to do that without driving yourself completely crazy, trying to figure out what you're going to talk about every minute of every day, is to repurpose the content. For example, in our post with this video, you can click the link and go to our blog post about this very thing. It's going to have more information for you. So you can make a video, you can make a blog, you can turn it into an infographic that you can then share on social media. There are a ton of ways to repurpose your content. You can create a podcast and then transcribe the podcast and put that up as a blog post. But if you're creating content directly on LinkedIn and LinkedIn owns that content, they might not be as happy with you doing that. So again, own your content because you work so hard to create it. We know, trust me, we know how much work goes into creating that really high quality, authoritative content. Don't blow it by just giving it away for free. I mean, you should give it away online for free, but make sure you own it so that you can do whatever you need to do to grow your audience. So the cons of blogging is that it can be harder to show up in searches, at least at first. If you follow all the rules of Google and you create data-rich, high-quality content that's keyword-rich and is long and has all those subheads, and we've written about a variety of SEO tips on this blog in these videos, so you can refer to those for how to get your blog to show up in searches. The downside is it takes a while, and because it'll take a while for Google to index your website, to figure out what it's all about, to vet it, to make sure that it really is high quality and authoritative and you really do know what you're talking about. It's going to take a while to earn that trust with Google and with your readers. So that's the downside of doing your own website. And the other downside is that it can cost a little bit more. I mean, at the very least, you have to pay for your own domain and you have to pay for hosting for your website. Both of those are fairly negligible. When we're talking about the cost of LinkedIn, for a LinkedIn, I mean, you can create a profile on LinkedIn for free. If you want some of the benefits that come with a premium account, you can pay anywhere from $30 a month to $120 a month, depending on whether you're a job seeker or a recruiter or the kinds of benefits that you want from LinkedIn. So it can actually cost less, depending on what you're doing, to do a blog post to maintain that website. But again, keep in mind, to have a really effective blog, you should really be hiring a professional who really knows what they're doing and can create that awesome content that is engaging, that converts leads, that gets you to show up in searches so that you can get those leads to your website and then engage them and convince them to take the next step in the buyer journey. All of that really requires a professional. So you can hire a professional. That can cost you anywhere from less than $100 a month to $1,000 a month, depending on how many blog posts you want, how long you want them to be, whether you want them to be optimized for search engines. All that stuff will determine the price. The kind of content marketer that you hire will also affect the price. So there are a lot of things that go into it. Even if you decide to do it yourself, you're still investing your own time and effort and resources into creating these blog posts, and your time is not free. Just because you're not paying out money to get those blog posts up there does not mean that there's not a price associated with it. So consider what your time is really worth and how long it takes you to create those blog posts, and you're most likely going to find that it's more cost effective just to hire a professional, because they'll do it better, they'll do it faster, it'll be more effective. So that's the pros and cons for LinkedIn articles as well as your own blog posts. So like I said, we are on LinkedIn. We're at AV Writing Services. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm at Allison Verhalen on LinkedIn. If you want to follow me, follow our brand, I absolutely encourage that. I am on there all the time, but I do not write LinkedIn articles. Here's what I do. I promote, again, I write my own blog posts on our website, and then I put those out via LinkedIn as a post. Quick thing about it, here's why you should follow this link, and then just a link back to my website, because it's all about getting leads back to my website so I can convert them into customers. So that's number one. Again, with the repurposing your content, that's one of the ways that you can repurpose it. You can share LinkedIn articles on other platforms, but again, once you get them to LinkedIn, LinkedIn wants them to stay on LinkedIn. You're not necessarily going to convert them into customers. So put your links to your website in your LinkedIn posts, and whatever other social media platforms you're on, because you want to get those people back to your website, back to your home turf, so to speak. And so you can absolutely do that. You can use hashtags. Hashtags are great for visibility, and if you do decide to go with LinkedIn articles, you should also use hashtags in your article, because that's going to help you show up in searches. And a lot of people these days, you can follow a hashtag. In addition to following certain people and certain brands, you can follow a hashtag. So for example, if you're an attorney who does, let's say you do employment law, and you want to use that hashtag employment law, then everyone who follows that hashtag, you'll show up in their feed by using that hashtag. So that's a great way to get in front of a bunch of new people. And finally, LinkedIn is social. I know it's made for businesses and business professionals. It is still a social media site, and marketers need to keep in mind that social media was meant to be social, and we have to keep the social part of social media. No one likes the person who only talks about themselves, who only talks about what they're doing. So that's as true of LinkedIn as it is of any cocktail party. So when you're creating content for LinkedIn, be sure to share other people's stuff in addition to creating your own stuff and sharing your own stuff. In general, the rule is it should be about 80% other people's stuff and 20% of your own stuff, your own content. So keep that rule, share other people's stuff, and then tag them in that post. When you do share their stuff on LinkedIn, tag them to let them know that you thought their content they created was so great that you're sharing it with your audience. That's going to help improve your visibility. They're going to notice that, and then they're going to be more likely to return the favor. They're going to take note of you and your brand, and they're going to be more likely to share your stuff with their audience. So it's a win-win. And finally, like other people's stuff. Follow other hashtags. Reach out to influencers, reach out to other brands, like and comment on their posts, get discussions going. It's a great place to build relationships, because that is where your business starts, is by building those relationships. And that's how you're going to get people's attention. And LinkedIn loves that too. LinkedIn will notice when you start really engaging with other people and other content on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn likes that too. So that's going to help you improve your visibility on LinkedIn. So that is our content marketing tip for the week. Again, I am Allison Verhalen. We are at avwritingservices.com. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to us. We are at info@avwritingservices.com. That's it. Have a great week and happy marketing.